What is up, people? It is me, Monster58, and welcome back to another video review. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studios series Deluxe Class Autobot Mirage from Rise of the Beasts. And this is a pretty big review considering the wealth of discussion that this figure has generated with its release, especially in the TF community, the collector side of things. But before we get to him, taking a look at the box here, it is very nice. We have Studio Series Autobot Mirage 105's Transformers Rise of the Beasts right there. We have some more nice artwork here of Mirage on the right side. Some more nice artwork with the Studio Series in the 105 here on the left. And finally, we do have our obligatory product shots as well as a picture of the display base, which I believe is simply in New York City, where the main character Noah ends up not necessarily meeting but working with Mirage in his at his apartment or hometown. So speaking of Mirage, before we even get into the figure, Pete Davidson certainly was one of the standout performances, and definitely Mirage ended up being one of my favorite characters in the entire movie, despite the fact that he is nothing like his G1 self. But it works, and I'm very, very happy with how he was in the movie. However, enough about the movie, enough about all the other pleasantries. Let's get this guy out of the box and see how the figure actually is. Alrighty, folks, here we have the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Rise of the Beasts Autobot Mirage in his 90s Porsche mode, and I gotta say, this is fantastic. This is an exceptionally well done vehicle mode, and it only makes sense mainly due to the fact that this is a licensed vehicle by Porsche. Now, as you guys know, I'm a big car nut, but I'm not super familiar with my 911 generation, so I apologize if I don't know this generation of 911. But it does look extremely well done. Obviously, had to be licensed, so it had to have looked good. And of course, being Porsche, it's being Porsche. So taking a look here, you can see very, very nice silver paint across the board. Very nice metallic silver paint. And you have the very nice metallic blue stripe that goes across the length of the vehicle from here all the way to the back. Obviously, there's nothing here, but still, you do have some nice stuff here. You do have the nice Porsche logo here on the side with the blue Tampo right there. Do have a very small but nice Autobot logo right there as well. Very nice rims. These are pretty much spot on. I do wish they were painted silver, but they are molded correctly. And then obviously on the back you do have the nice spoiler for the car as well as the nice painted red taillights, which is very indicative of this generation of 911. And overall, I do think that this looks extremely well done. And this is again pretty accurate and pretty much spot on to how Mirage and the Porsche 911 looked in this generation in this year. And that is going to be part of this figure's issue, and we'll get into that once we get into the robot mode, and we'll have a pretty decent discussion about this figure as a whole once we get to that robot mode. But for quick comparison, I'm going to set Mirage off to the back there. Here is Mirage with both Bumblebee as well as Nightbird. Both of these are licensed vehicles, but I feel that Nightbird, in my opinion, is actually more well done than Mirage is. And obviously, I think Bumblebee, out of the three of these, is the best. Very, very nice scale, though, between these. A Camaro should be taller than a Porsche, especially when it's lifted like this. And in general, the Camaros and the muscle cars like these were big vehicles, especially in comparison to a sports car like the 911 here. And then obviously taking Bumblebee out of the equation here, you can take a look at the size difference that he has with Nightbird here. You can see Nightbird's actually still pretty tiny. I do think that these should be a little more comparable in size, but this is fine. I do think that this ends up working out. But yeah, overall, I do think that Mirage scales very, very well with his other wave mates as well as with his other fellow robots. Alrighty, from here, it's time to get into the transformation. Now, when it comes to the transformation, it's not necessarily that it's frustrating, but it doesn't feel good. I do not feel good about transforming this figure at all because I always feel like I'm going to break something. So I will do my best here to detail what it is about the transformation that I'm not a fan of as I'm doing it, but also we'll talk about it when we get into the robot mode and such. But the first things first is actually on the bottom of the vehicle, you can store his gun here. So as you can see, there are two little slots right there, one right there and one right there. And then if you take a look at his gun here, you can see these little pegs on the sides will slot right into those two slots there, right there. And so you just obviously want to take that out. And taking a quick look at the gun, it does look fine. It looks way better when it's actually to focus. It looks way better than when it's actually on Mirage, because it's the same thing with like Bumblebee, where it actually covers his hand. So we'll get into that in robot mode, but we'll set that off to the side for now. Getting into Mirage, here we go. First things first, take this section. I like this because mine doesn't tab in all that well, or maybe I'm just mistransforming it, but I don't want to force this any more than I already have. So take the top of the roof here and just push that back and just fold it a bit. I guess something like this. Then you can essentially sort of wiggle this back section and split the legs, and then you can take this. What I like to do is sort of take my finger here and sort of help push it from the bottom here. Takes a little bit of doing, but I like to try and wiggle this area because this pegs in very tightly, and there goes one of his wheels already, which is why this transformation doesn't feel good. Not even trying to force anything. Sorry about that, guys. Took a little bit of doing, but again, fold this up and then wiggle this apart, essentially. And then what we'll be able to do is, there you go. You can get this and get this whole rear windshield untabbed like this. And then you can just lift this like this to sort of get it out of the way, because there's a lot of junk in this back section here that gets moved around. So next thing I like to do is sort of wiggle the legs out of, and there goes the wheel again. There we go, reattach again. Wiggle the legs out of commission, and then what you can do is take these doors, and then they're tabbed into the fenders here, so kind of wiggle them away, and then you can rotate them down. This just helps get rid of a lot of this kibble. It just helps give you space. So rotate those down like so, and you should have something like this right now. And then what I like to do is, so this waist section is kind of wild. So as you can see, it's sort of, I don't know how well this will come across, but it's on a hinge. So what you want to do is, essentially the crotch piece is folded in. So you want to take this and then rotate it up like so. I don't know how I'm going to be able to really show this. You rotate it up like so. And then this entire section, this gray bit here, will rotate up. And you just kind of fit it in like so for now. Then you can take the arms. Again, there's so much junk here. And then you can split them like so, and then rotate them down like that. And then take these front fenders, and then you can fold them up. Again, helps the clearance, and then just push the arms out of the way. Again, helps it. And now you can sort of see this better. So you can see, you should have it sort of like this for now, this waist bit. And then what you do is you rotate this entire section around, and then you just clip it in like this. So you rotate this gray bit down, and then you bend the other waist bit, and then you should have something like this essentially. Then from here, you can take the wheels and then just fold them both. And then take these legs, rotate this all the way around, and fold the foot out. And this will be his actual leg. And then for this, I like to arrange it where you can just fold it down like this, because this is sort of the less kibbly way of doing it. So that's how I make the legs. And again, do the same thing here. So fold the wheel in if it will stop unclipping itself. Rotate this all the way around like so, and then finally with this section, again, I like to rotate it down a bit, and then you can rotate the door like so, and so you have something like this. It helps keep this guy as less kibbly as possible. I apologize for all the cutting. I know that I'm trying to make this figure look good, but at the same time, man, this is a bit frustrating that this is happening, because this doesn't really happen to me when I'm actually like transforming it normally, like everything coming off. Although sometimes it does, not all the time. So next you can unclip these two bumper sections from the top here, and then just essentially push that part back, and you can rotate this all the way down, revealing his head. Then you take these chest pieces and you just fit them in like so. You just push them together, and they should essentially just rest there like so. And then you can sort of push the arms up, and you basically have, for the most part, you have Mirage's arms and his entire upper body for the most part finished. Now this part, you can rearrange this however you like. I like to do something like this, and then you can rotate this up and rest it on his back. And then now finally to do this section, you have to essentially push this part all the way back and then rotate this down, and then you just kind of push it back and force it into that little section behind his neck. And then you can either keep it like this or you can fold this piece down. And then, ladies and gentlemen, oh yeah, this part, I apologize. Needs to essentially clip into place. Well, it kind of rests in there. Mine doesn't really clip. But, ladies and gentlemen, here we have the Transformers Deluxe class Studio Series Mirage from Rise of the Beasts in his robot mode. Now, guys, taking a look here, if you grab the gun, you can see there's a peg there, right there, and then there is his hole in his hand, in his fist, and then you can just plop that in like so. But now it's time to talk about the robot mode. This is not entirely accurate. First off, if you look at him straight on, this guy is definitely way too broad. Well, not way too broad, but he's broader than he should be, especially in this section here. He should be like a quarter of a robot thinner than he actually is. In addition, this is a bit of a mess. I mean, you can see this whole thing is a mess here. And to get this licensing, I remember that, again, I mentioned him a few videos ago, that toy guy had asked Sam, one of the designers, about the Porsche logo, and did the licensing of this figure affect how his engineering was worked in terms of keeping that Porsche license. And yes, because they couldn't break up, Sam had mentioned they couldn't break up the Porsche logo, obviously, for Porsche to approve the sponsorship for the licensing for the car to actually be the actual 911 from the movie, especially because Mirage was one of the main characters that was marketed for the movie. So yeah, unfortunately, there was things that had to suffer. Specifically, they couldn't break this up to make it fold any differently so that these legs could be less kibbly, because as you can see, they are extremely kibbly. I mean, you can rearrange this, again, however you see fit, so that it is as less kibbly as possible. But yeah, you can definitely see where the compromises were made, and that's where the discussion for this figure lies. Now, don't get me wrong, looking at the details here, his head sculpt is really, really nice. I think this looks really, really good, and he does have nice details, like here in the abdomen, he has some nice details. All the silver paint, there is a good amount of silver paint, but some of it, a lot of it is lost because a lot of it's on this backpack here, obviously, because it's in the vehicle mode. You do get this nice gray and a ton of nice molded in detail here. You can see it on the legs, but the feet look really weird also, in my opinion. These don't look correct, especially this looks like it should be on the outside, but it's not. Or these look like these should be like part of the heels, but they aren't. And it's just, man, it's really weird. And then his forearms being clear plastic and all of this being painted clear, plastic, makes me worry about the longevity and play factor of this figure, especially when you're mainly marketing towards kids, because beyond the adult collector, keep in mind, people, we're the minority. The person that really wants to buy this is actually a kid, right? So let's discuss why Mirage suffers here. And I'm not saying that this is a bad figure at all. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's awful. It's just he kind of feels awful to handle. But let's talk about it. So when it comes to licensing, I still actually have Nightbird in robot mode. In vehicle mode. This, in my opinion, is the better of the two in terms of the licensed vehicle mode, because even though her robot mode isn't nearly as accurate as it should be, they did the best that they could, and she doesn't feel awful to transform. There's really no Nissan logo that needed to be done here. Just the silhouette of the car was enough for Nissan, from my understanding, to actually get the sponsorship, because there's no Nissan logo. It's just the Predacon logo here. So when it comes to Mirage, with them not being able to break up the Porsche licensing and the Porsche logo, I think that even though that Nightbird is also a prime example of a licensed figure that also suffers, particularly in its robot mode, I think Mirage here suffers a bit more. And you can definitely see that. Again, it's another case, as I mentioned in the Nightbird video, where you have a robot mode that's designed from CGI where they can make things fit wherever they want them to fit. If they want the taillights to be on his arms, they can. If they want his headlights to be in his chest, they can. If they want to fit the wheel wells into the side of his legs, they can. Or on top of his head, they can. It's all up to the CGI, because literally it's CGI, so the limit is, again, your imagination. There's nothing that they can't really do with CGI nowadays. However, when it comes to a licensed figure, unfortunately, and especially with a robot mode like Mirage, they have to make one mode look good. And obviously, being a car manufacturer, Porsche wants the car mode to look good, so the robot mode suffers. And again, you can see that he's proportionally not correct. He's not nearly as skinny as he should be. The paint doesn't really come through on the robot mode because it's all mostly focused on the vehicle mode, and there's a lot of clear plastic that when he transforms, it just feels bad to handle because you know it's brittle. You want to be careful with it, but the transformation ends up having you force things into places you don't want to force things into, especially when you're going from robot to vehicle. Vehicle to robot's fine. I think going from robot to vehicle feels worse than going from vehicle to robot. So when it comes to this figure, although I don't think it's bad, I think there are so many compromises made because of the licensing of this vehicle that instead of really enhancing it, even with Nightbird, it ends up really making this figure feel a little worse. Now, we'll talk about this in the other discussions, but for the most part, I am going to recommend this, but this is because it's way better in my opinion, especially just looks wise than the mainline version in the just regular Rise of the Beasts mainline. And this is for now the best deluxe size Mirage we're going to be getting. So I was lucky enough to find him IRL, and that usually doesn't happen for me. But again, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, you guys can understand maybe my frustration because this is probably the best standout performance of the whole movie, and yet his figure in comparison to the rest of them, it actually I think it's the worst of the Rise of the Beasts figures. But again, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts about, how maybe this licensing really hurt this figure. Any other opinions also in general about this figure are very much welcomed in a good discussion. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are, so leave them in the comments below. But for now, let's do some comparisons. So we'll set Mirage off to the back here. Alright, guys, here we have the Deluxe Class Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Mirage. We have the Deluxe Class Bumblebee as well as the Deluxe Class Nightbird. He scales very well. He should be a bit taller than Bumblebee, and as well as Nightbird, considering how tiny Nightbird is. But he scales very well with them, and I think that this is a very, very nice way to look at these guys. A very good scale. And for some other quick comparisons, here he is with both Scourge as well as Optimus Primal, both the leader class ones. And yeah, of course, he scales very well, as we know at the end of the movie. Well, spoilers, please skip the next, 10 seconds, 15 seconds if you haven't seen the movie. Scourge ends up obviously, killing Mirage at the very end. And, this is a very good scale. Scourge should be much bigger. So should Primal. They are leader class figures. Obviously, this is a deluxe figure. So even though that this guy's more of a Voyager, at the same time, the scale works. Alright, and before we get into the articulation, I just want to clarify I'm not really dissing the designers and even the CGI guys, because these guys, the designers of the toy, have to, again, they made these figures 18 months in advance of the original movie, and in addition to that, you have these designers that are put through a ton of restrictions. First off, a robot mode that's very skinny and streamlined, very similar to Nightbird, in addition to that, a vehicle mode that has to be pristine and perfect in addition to being licensed because it is licensed, and then having to make it as screen accurate as possible while giving the licensor the stuff that they want for them to be willing to give up the license for the vehicle mode itself. So again, I'm not faulting the designers and even the CGI guys. There's a part where they need to sort of compromise in that way, but yeah, it's just the designers already put through a ton of restrictions and a ton of parameters that it's kind of inevitable that this figure would have ended the way that it did. So in terms of its transformation, its vehicle mode accuracy, as well as all of the kibble on the robot mode. And so, speaking of the kibble, even though that he is decently articulated, at the end of the day, part of all of this figure's restrictions come down to the fact that everything bumps into everything. As you can see, again, look at that backpack. It's kind of a mess back here. It's okay, but it's certainly a mess. So getting into it, head is on a ball joint from what I can tell, but you can barely look down. You can't really even look up all that much, but you can do a side to side here. For the shoulders, full 360, but again, this gets in the way, and then this part gets in the way too. But you do get upper bicep cut and 90-degree bend at the elbow. No wrist articulation. Yeah, actually, you do have wrist articulation. Sorry about that. You do have wrist articulation, full wrist articulation. You do have full waist, but again, look at the way the doors. I mean, you can bend these down, but again, it's just everything bumps into one another. You do get full waist though, full forward, full back. Again, you're just bumping into all this crap. You do get a 90-degree at the knee, but again the wheel kind of gets in the way too, and then this gets in the way, and then you do have ankle rocker, but it's like backwards because of how the feet are supposed to, like, it just doesn't, you can kind of get some splits with this guy, but it really isn't that good, and you can't really get him in some crazy dynamic poses all that much just due to the fact of, well, everything being, a bit messed up. So yeah, that's it for the articulation. Alrighty, now that we finished the articulation, now in my opinion is the hard part, is getting this guy from robot mode to vehicle mode. So, this is a challenge. So, and it doesn't feel good. So, to start off, remove the gun. From here, what you're gonna do, this is the first thing I like to do. You fold this back, this top part of his backpack, and I have to pray this doesn't happen. You just have to push it up and pull at the same, push it back like this, and then pull up so that this thing will get released. But I'm so afraid of breaking something when I'm doing this because yeah, and more often than not, as you can see, this part just always comes off when I try to do this, and I'm not being forceful. I'm literally putting enough pressure, as much pressure as I dare, just to try to get this thing off and moved up. But of course, as we see, it doesn't always work out. I've had a couple times where it's worked fine, but yeah, that time it didn't. So just lift that up like so. What you can do here is you can essentially sort of fan these out a bit now, the chest bits here, and then you can rotate this all the way up like so. And just sort of leave all this section here. You can take this section and start to fold it up here in the back as well, just so you can get this out of the way, because again, there's so much crap in this midsection here. So from here, it's really funky. So what I like to do is you can fold, rotate the feet or back around like so. Like so. And then you can fold the feet up and then rotate the wheels, start to rotate the wheels out as well. There's so much crap here. It's really it's something, man. So I apologize for the cut there. I was trying to do the transformation, completely just messed up. But to go here to the legs, to do the legs here, what you got to do first is rotate these bits like so. And then sort of rotate this up on one side and then make the fender just, curve so that the wheel fits inside. So you'll know where the fender should be placed by where the wheel placement is. So just rotate that wheel where you can and just try and fit it your best in there. And then you can take this section here, fold the foot in, and then you can just do your best to sort of line all this up and fit it together like so, and you should essentially get something like this, but try and leave the doors alone for the time being. So again, you can just take this side, rotate it, fold the wheel up, essentially rotate this all the way around so that the fenders line up here like so, and then you can fold the foot up on the bottom all the way in, and then just again try your best to obviously not get the wheel to come off, and have this all line up like so, and you essentially should come up with something like this. Again, I'd like to apologize. That wheel just hates me right now during this review. So, next thing you want to do is go to the waist here, because this is where you should just do the waist right away. So again, untab, or rotate this all the way around. Then what you can do is untab this part and just rotate it all the way up, like so. And then take this crotch piece here and then fold it down, so that essentially locks into place. Make sure that when you're folding this down, that this front lip section, you can see how the crotch is shaped. Like there, you can see that there's this little lip right there. You want it to be facing forwards so that when you clip this thing into place, it clips into place very nicely. So just do that, and there you go. You essentially have that part of the legs. Now, keep the doors like this because there's a lot of crap here. So, to do the arms, you want to rotate them in. Actually, fold the legs down. You want to rotate them in while trying to get the doors out of the frickin' way. And then essentially the arms will fold up like so that the windows line up straight with the side of the windshield here. And then you can take the wheels and you can fold those down and start to line everything in the front of the car up like so. You can do your best to, if you haven't lined this up already, just try and push it in like so. And again, try to do the same thing here. So try and get the door out of the way on the side there. Accordion the arm in like this. Fold it in. Take this section and line it up, make sure it's lined up, then take the wheel section, you can fold this down and essentially try to fit all this together like so, and there, you do essentially have the front of the car already transformed. And then take the doors, rotate them around, and then just try your best to accordion all this. Now what you'll notice is that there's a hook tab here, so you're going to take this and try your best to hook that under like so, and then what you'll do is you'll essentially do the same with the front of the door like that. And then do the same thing here on this side. So again, once you have the leg, just sort of rotate the door like so. I'll fix that. I'll get that later. Then you rotate this like so. Rotate this all the way up. And then try your best to tab everything into place and get it to fit together like that. We'll get this wheel again. There we got the wheel to fit back. Go from here. The last part to do for this transformation, essentially, well, this came untabbed a bit. Snap these together, like so. Again, get everything to line up like that. Then, essentially, you gotta take this section, rotate, accordion it like so. And then what you'll notice is that there are these tabs here that will go into these little slots right there on both sides, like these little grooves. So what I find is sort of trying to wiggle them in is the best way you got. And they're clear plastic tabs, which is another reason this figure scares me for its longevity over time, is because of those clear tabs like this. Because, man, you can tell that this will be brittle. And I can tell you after this review, I will not be transforming this guy much at all. I'll transform him once back into robot mode, and then he will sit on my shelf for the rest of eternity. So yeah, and then once you got that all tabbed into place, and again, make sure this is all tabbed, make sure that this is all tabbed into place as well, because you have those clear tabs here that you can see those clear tabs. You can just try and rotate them on top there. Again, try and push. Again, it's not easy to get all this to line up. It's very, it doesn't feel good to handle this figure. There we go. We finally got everything lined up, and there we do have Mirage back in his gorgeous Porsche 911 vehicle mode. Last thing, obviously, to do, guys, I'm sorry I missed this. Take this, and then you can obviously just tab his weapon into place if you do wish to do the vehicle storage. Like so, and then you'll get that tab like so. But for my final and concluding thoughts on the Transformers Studio Series Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Autobot Mirage, man, this is a tough one. Again, like I said earlier in the review, I cannot fault the designers on the robot mode and the transformation, and the only thing I will say that they should have not done is made everything clear plastic that are like tabs. There's so many parts of this figure that are clear plastic tabs, and it feels really awful. Especially making the forearms just completely clear plastic is just like, holy cow. But the vehicle mode looks fantastic. The transformation is the worst part of this thing. And the robot mode, while not 100% accurate, still does look good. I want to make that clear. It still does look good, but the legs kind of look a bit funky, and the proportions are not correct. And then everything bumps into everything for the articulation. It's nice he comes with the gun. Obviously, he should come with the gun. But yeah, overall, it's just, man, this is just sort of like an ouchie figure that's hurt by its license. in more ways than one. And so, even though it is a bit of a shame, it is still an okay figure. So, out of 10, if I have to give this a score, it's a 6.5. It's just above average. It's not good. I wouldn't consider it good nor great, and I wouldn't consider it bad. I would still recommend it because it's better than the mainline one, and this is the only Mirage that currently is available. So I picked mine up on the Big Bad Toy Store. I'll leave a link in the. Oh, actually, no, excuse me. I picked mine up IRL actually, which I was very lucky to find. But I will leave links in the description to Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, as well as Hasbro Pulse, so you guys can pick this guy up if you'd like to. Um, and with that, yeah, I mean, that's all I really have to say about Mirage. Just a little bit disappointing. And he just doesn't feel good to handle because of all of the clear plastic and whatnot. So, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And also follow me on the socials linked in the description below. And with that, guys, I know this has been a really long review, but I had a lot to say about this figure. So, I thank you guys again so much for taking the time to watch this video. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Peace.